and welcome to the Divorce Women's Guide podcast, where we talk about the things us divorcees are thinking, but not always talking about, as we turn our divorce into the best gift we've ever been given. And I do so with a little bit of sass and a whole lot of class. I am your host, Wendy Sterling, founder of the Divorce Rehab. I am here to support you in this transition phase of your life so you can start your new best chapter on your own terms. After all, that's what I did after my own divorce. And now it is my mission to change the conversation around divorce and help you see why your divorce, like mine, was the best gift you ever received. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Divorce Women's Guide podcast. And I am so happy that you are tuning in today because I am here with my dear friend and the co-founder of Divorceify, Sonia Queralt. Hi, Sonia. How are you?
Hello. Good morning. Good to be on here. Grateful to you.
Of course. I'm so happy that you are here today. Thank you so much for joining me. And for everybody listening, Sonia has an incredible story. And I asked her and invited her to be on the podcast because I really want her to share it with you all. It is inspiring. And it is the reason that she created this incredible business and resource to all of us going through divorce. And really her whole story to me is how you too can create your next chapter that you don't necessarily think is even possible in this moment. So I'm going to share a little bit about you, Sonia, with our audience today. So Sonia is a divorce litigator and also a survivor of divorce. And she now dedicates her career to helping people go through divorce and focusing on making their happily ever after possible. Sonia earned her bachelor's degree at American University and studied law at Northeastern University School of Law. She lives in New York with her husband and her almost one-year-old son, and her two cats, Bella and Ninja. And I love this quote, and I want to share it with everybody because you shared it with me for the summit, which is that divorce is brutal and life-changing. There's just no way around that. To get through a divorce in the healthiest way possible, people need the right type of help that addresses their pain points and personal needs. Divorce cannot be one size fits all approach. And surrounding yourself with a safe space and the right team will make all the difference. Trust me, I've lived it. So true, Sonia. And, this is actually one of the reasons why I am very vocal about the fact that there's so many different divorce coaching programs that you can do online. And it really bothers me because I agree with you. I think that there isn't a one size fits all. It's one of the reasons why I pride myself on my business, which is because I do create a customized coaching program for every single one of my clients because no two situations, circumstances are the same, and not everybody coming in when they need help is at the same place. And so I love that you say that, and I love that it validates, so much of what I believe and what I've been preaching. And, so anyways, I just wanted to point that out. And I would love for you, let's start out and talk about your story because it is one that is truly inspiring and obviously is also the foundation for how you got to where you are and created the business that you've created.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much. And here we go. So I was in a miserable marriage. I was in a miserable marriage where I was putting on a show every time I walked out those doors. Everybody from the outside thought, this is great. Two professionals, they've been together a long time. This is perfect. They're young, they travel, they do all these great things. They're living in Boston. And behind closed doors, I was absolutely miserable and had been for a long time. And I kept that secret to myself. I felt alone. I felt very uninspired. I felt confused. I was angry. And while I was doing all of this suffering by myself personally, I was litigating divorces, which means I was in court all the time fighting other attorneys for people's divorce. And that for me was so heavy. I was carrying a deep secret while I was doing all of this advocacy. So basically, I one day was not only just completely disillusioned with the litigation process with divorce. I thought there's just a better way to do this. I saw that right away. But then I also thought, in order for me to approach this next chapter, and I don't know what it's going to look like, in the best way possible, I have to live my truth and own it. And my truth was, I'm not happy. I haven't been happy, and I need to fight for my happiness. And I finally said, I want a divorce. And with that, I also walked into the partner's office of the firm I was litigating, and I said, Friday will be my last day. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea what this was going to look like, but I almost felt like I was in a pressure cooker and I couldn't take it anymore. I was exploding. And so once I said that, everybody looked at me and said, as if I had said that I wanted a cheeseburger for lunch. Everybody looked at me and said, oh, well, you're a divorce litigator. You're great. You know how to do this. You'll be fine. And that for me was an absolute eye-opener, because I thought, wow, number one, this is my life. Number two, I have no idea. I can't even get my footing straight, let alone just kind of like, oh, it's no big deal. I'll just file the papers tomorrow and this will be done. And here I go. But everybody told me also that I had to fight. I had been many years, there was equity in the home, there were just so many things I was entitled to and I needed to fight for. And none of those consisted of my happiness, my sanity, and me again. Nothing was about that. It was about all these things. And so what I did was I surrounded myself first and foremost with a therapist, with a safe space of people that I entrusted and told the truth to finally. And then I decided that I was going to fight for my happiness by walking away from everything. I wanted my cat. I wanted a few of my belongings, personal belongings, my clothes, my purses, little things that mattered at that time. I packed up my car on September 1st, 2015, and I left. And that started a whole other chapter. And I ended up driving from Boston, Massachusetts to New York, where I stopped at my parents' house for a few days. And then I drove down to Miami Beach to be by the ocean, to start my chapter 2 by myself and with my little Bella, my cat, and the few things that I had. And I knew that I had to be scrappy, smart, and I also needed to heal. And that was what I needed, and that's what I gave myself, the best gift ever.
Wow. So a couple of things have come up for me. And, as I'm listening to your story, so many of us, when we are living in a miserable marriage, are living a double life, right? Where there's one life inside, and then there's a whole other life that we're trying to portray on the outside, almost like we are trying to magically bring that world inside, or we are just living in a place of denial or just, embarrassment, right? That our marriage is not what everybody else's looks like, right? Like, and I call it actually, I call it the Facebook facade. I feel like social media has, created this stigma of these happy, smiley families. And, so talk a little bit more about, what that struggle was like, because, you know, and especially the fact that you were going to court and talking and representing clients about the exact thing that you knew you wanted, but just could not, you just, for whatever reasons, you weren't there. Like, talk about what that struggle felt like, because, so many people are living that right now and we feel alone. And I don't want anyone listening to think that, oh, I'm the only one that went through this, or I'm the only one who had to pretend. So talk a little bit about what that struggle was like for you and how long it went on for.
It was, it went on for many years. Look, when I look back on why I got married at that time, I made a lot of mistakes and I got married for a lot of the wrong reasons. It took a lot of therapy and a lot of healing to be able to realize that. But I had made decisions at that time that if I could have gone back, I would have changed them. I just didn't know any better. And I sort of had the internal struggle of, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is what I had seen. This is what I had grown up with. Therefore, marriage is hard, but you'll figure it out. And I battled with that for a very long time. So back to your question, sort of what it felt like, I felt crazy. I felt like a fraud. I felt like very alone. I felt like, is it me? That constant question, can I just not be happy? Is it me? Do I expect too much from my partner? So these constant feelings and questions. And so what I started doing was, because I am a very emotional person, what you see is what you get. But at that time, I just started closing off more and more. I closed off family and friends. I closed off in terms of just as a professional. It was almost like I was a robot. I had to go in and do what I had to do, and that's all I could do. But I was exhausted at the end of the day. I was exhausted every morning. It was the hardest 7 years of my life, without a doubt. And it just kept getting worse. And it kept getting harder and heavier. And I was so angry. I was so angry at my situation, but I was so angry at myself. How did I let myself get here? I'm smarter than this. I know better. How? And I put so much pressure on myself. And I was just so angry that I became my own worst enemy. So it was a constant battle in my mind. My brain was always cluttered. I know that other people that are in this situation feel it too, where you just can't get a thought straight. Everything is magnified with just emotional reactions to everything. And it pained. I just didn't feel happy. I didn't feel happy about anything. And I just kept kind of marching along. It'll get better. This will get easier. At one point, this will kind of break, and I wasn't communicating. And I just started just festering in it. And that got to a point where I literally thought, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. And I could feel it. And I know people say that all the time, but people who've been there, you know what that feels like. That claustrophobic, it's going to happen at any point. You don't know where or when. It could be in public, could be in your house. Who knows? But you're going to explode because your body can't take anymore. And that's how I felt. And it was awful. And I told nobody. Mm-hmm. And so here I was then listening to my clients, and my clients, for me, I've always been sort of a compassionate person. So my clients could feel that. And I really cared for them. And they would describe things that I was feeling. And I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to look at them and just shout, me too, me too, me too. And I just kept going. And at one point, I couldn't go on anymore. I don't know. I just remember there was one moment that I will never forget in my life. I was sitting in the condo in Boston by myself. And I suddenly out loud just said, if this is as good as it gets, this just isn't good enough for me. I can't do any of it anymore. And I could feel a shift. And I can't describe what that shift was, but it was a shift suddenly of, you have to take the first step. We don't know what it's going to look like. I have no idea what it's going to be like, but I have to take it. And I did. That night I said it. And that day I set a goal in my mind. By this date, you will be out of this house. And that was September 1st, 2015. Why did I pick September 1st? I have no idea, but I did. I'm a goal-oriented person. I need that cutoff deadline. So I gave myself that date. And I started then. I had days where I didn't move. I don't want people to think that suddenly I just started planning chapter 2 like it was so easy. No. I had days I didn't move. I had days that my parents drove up from New York to see me in Boston because I was in a dark place and having a lot of dark moments. But I decided, what do I need? And how do I start to heal really? Because I never want to be in this type of situation again. No. I just can't.
Yeah. And I know, I feel so much of, we get so conflicted about what's right. And like you said, no one gets married thinking that they're going to get divorced. And at the same time, when you know something isn't right anymore and it's silently killing you inside, it's such a tug of war around what will other people think. This isn't the way, this isn't what I thought this was going to be. And what was it like for you to, you had said that you had shut everybody off, but then your parents were coming up to support you. So I imagine at that point you shared with your family what was going on. So what was that like? Because my parents were in the dark, and it took me 2 weeks to tell my mom that I had kicked my ex-husband out. Because I was so scared and ashamed and just afraid of what their reaction was going to be. Because I came from a very traditional, old school, old-fashioned family. So what was that like when you finally had to tell your parents what was going on with you?
I too come from the same, my parents have been together since they were 15 and 17 years old, so forever. And they have had their struggles, but they have a really good marriage. And that's what I grew up with. So it was really hard. I had kept them in the dark as well, even while we had tried sort of like marriage therapy, which honestly, I was not committed to it just because I already had a foot out the door. That was my true feeling of it. The day that I told them, my mom just cried. So it was very hard. My father, he's more of the analytical brain. He just started right away to ask questions. And their questions came from a place of complete shock and a place of love. But their questions made me feel even worse about my decision, because they came also from a judgment of, can you make this work? Meanwhile, I'm thinking in my head, it's been 7-8 years. I can't make it work. I'm out. I need it now. But there were a lot of questions of, can you save this? Instead of an acceptance of what my position was, but what my feelings were. And it was really hard. It was one of the hardest things. I broke them in a way at that very moment, and I'm very close with my parents. So that was, and I felt like a failure. I couldn't do it. Yeah. I can't be like you. I couldn't do this. I felt shame. I felt a lot of regret that they had been in the dark for so long. And really didn't have a clue. I then realized that perhaps I should have taken up acting because I did a good job. They didn't have a clue. But I felt I felt guilty and I felt really bad and it was really hard and I really did. I felt like a failure.
Yeah, like so many of us do, right? I mean, I remember feeling the same way. I mean, I remember feeling, and I hear it all the time from my clients, is that, the number one feeling is I feel like a failure. I did
Yeah,
something wrong.
yeah,
And one of the things that I always try to remind my clients is that, our marriage failed, not us, right? The marriage failed. Marriage takes two people. And we get to take responsibility for our part in the marriage falling apart. Your story is also bringing up for me with what happened in my story, which was my mom also cried when I told her. And then my dad, similarly, analytical one. I mean, he had some choice words for my ex-husband.
right.
And then out of nowhere, he said to me, he goes, I had a feeling something was wrong about a year and a half ago. And I'm thinking to myself, number one, oh my God, I didn't hide it well enough, right? And then number two, I thought, why didn't you say something to me? Because I was in the dark, clearly. And similarly, he and I had been in couples therapy for a couple of years. And I was in therapy also at the time separately and didn't tell my parents that either. And, you brought up something really important, which is that the judgment that comes from people, right? And what I always say is that, it's about them. It's their discomfort with the situation. It's them trying to fix it for you, right? Rather than just holding space for what is, right? What is it that you're feeling? What it is that the circumstance is. And it's also why I always say, like, I love my friends and family, but they kept me stuck because it was like, he would never do this to you. You guys are the perfect couple, or you guys will work through this. You have two children. You can't do this to them, right? And it's like, okay, but yeah, can't do this, period.
Right.
Like, and I just really want to point out to everybody, the overlap. We're just two people, but what a great focus group of, you're subject to so much judgment on the outside because society, I believe, puts so much emphasis on your marital status.
Yeah.
And there's a stigma that goes with that, you, me, everybody listening get sucked into that, we don't want to be divorced, right? There's just this negativity that comes with that word. And so, the fact that you also walked away from everything, I mean, you literally took a few belongings and walked out. And that is the polar opposite of what most of us do, right? I was like, I'm keeping the house, I'm keeping this, like, get out, like, you get nothing, like, and you were the exact opposite.
Yeah.
How, Sonia?
And I have to tell you, I then suffered judgment on that end as
Oh,
well.
I'm sure.
From my colleagues, from my friends, from family who was just like, wait, what? You've invested this much time, you've put in money, you've put in time. No. So it's so interesting. I knew right away, even though I was a litigator, this is what I did. I fought all day for things. I knew right away that I wasn't going to fight. I didn't have it in me. I was really broken. The little bit of energy that I could put together was simply dedicated to one thing, myself. I had neglected all of it for so long, and inside, like, and people listening, and you know this from your story, inside I was shattered.
Mm-hmm.
I had led such a lie for a life that was such a lie for so long that I just simply didn't have it in me. And the second piece of it is it wasn't worth the fight.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that was worth fighting for me was my happiness, my healing. I wanted to smile again and really smile. I wanted to walk outside and just be cognizant and present in the moment. It was so important to me that I just thought all of this other stuff doesn't matter. Money from the equity of the home, what it's going to cost me to get that is gonna just tear me up. I don't have it. I need to put the pieces together for me. And it's something I tell my clients all the time, and I tell people, I believe, and we talk, and you said this in the beginning, and I agree, every divorce is different, but you have to do what's best for you. Not what everybody thinks is best for you, what you truly feel inside. And I was so, part of my anger at myself was that I had stopped listening to that little voice.
Yeah.
I had stopped listening to those feelings, those alerts that I would get in my head and be like, oh, wait a minute. But then that's what I was so angry about, that I had lost my inner voice, my balance, my just all of that for me was so heavy that I just said, I'm not going to even take anything that was ours. I'm simply going to take what was mine, my cat, and that's it. And I did it. And I have to tell you, I was judged about my divorce, and then I was judged about how I was going to approach my divorce. So it was a double whammy that felt, I remember looking around and thinking, I am so alone going through this, but suddenly I didn't feel as lonely as I had felt standing next to my ex-husband for 7 years. Suddenly I felt like I was more together and I was more with myself than I had ever been. But it was really hard, but it was the right decision for me. I have zero regrets from walking away from everything, from starting in Miami with nothing, no TV, no nothing, just me and Bella, a little bit of clothes, a little bit of stuff, and I just started working and I started doing document review. Here I had gone from a prestigious law firm litigating to doing doc review as an attorney. And people were like, you're crazy. And I thought, right now I need to do whatever it takes. And then the only thing I need to do every day is be able to feed myself a little bit, feed Bella, and pay my bills. And if I can do that every month, it'll be all right. If I have a little bit of money, $20 the first month, I think it was like 17 something I had in my bank account. And I just felt richer than ever. I had done it. I was doing it. And that just kept building that fire inside to just bigger and better. And, but it was really hard. It was really hard, but I tell everybody, divorce is really, once you are committed to getting a divorce, then the process is up to you. You drive that bus. You get the right team around you to help you and deal with the different facets of your divorce. But you drive that bus. And for me, that was what I needed to do. For others, it's not the right decision. I respect that. But I needed to fight for one thing, and that was just for me.
Yeah. And you did, because look where you're standing today, right? And so I want everyone to listen to Sonja's story. I mean, she went from literally having the clothes on her back, plus her cat, plus a few other items. And you created a whole new life, a whole new business for yourself. You're also remarried. You have a beautiful baby boy. And look at that smile. I know those of you listening can't see, but she's got this huge glowing smile on her face, loving her life because she believed in herself. You knew that you were enough and that you would be okay because you were finally taking care of yourself. And, you know, I can tell you what I can relate to also with what you said is that I was more alone in my marriage than I am or was when we separated.
Absolutely.
There is nothing more painful, and I'm getting goosebumps. There's nothing more painful than being in a marriage and feeling so lonely. Then, you know, there's just nothing worse to me. And yet so many people think that it's going to be worse on the other side, and it's not. And here you stand, here I stand. You know, you've created an incredible life. I've created an incredible life, and we took risks. We trusted ourselves. We trusted and listened to our intuition. That's what I heard you say. It was your intuition that you finally listened to.
Yeah.
And look where that got us. And a
Yeah.
belief in ourselves, knowing that we could do anything.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. Absolutely. And it wasn't easy.
No.
And there were some really hard moments, and there were some lonely moments. But I never regretted leaving.
Yeah.
And I never regretted ending it. And for a while, I had to deal with the regret of, why did it take you so long? Right?
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
Why did it take me so long? Well, eventually I realized the answer to that question didn't matter. It doesn't matter why, just matters when and how. That's it.
Yeah.
And suddenly for me, it's, I focused in my chapter 2 in the beginning and throughout it, I focused a ton on healing. I focused a ton on myself. And it was, some people thought every day I got to Miami, every morning I went down to the beach to watch the sunrise. It was a constant reminder for me that the sun comes up, a new day, it starts again. And yesterday is done, and today is a new day. Let's see. And it became sort of, for me, it really became my moment to really manifest presence and self-care. It was my meditation every morning. And it didn't matter where I was or where I was going. Every morning I was down on that beach. And some mornings I would cry. Some mornings I would just sit. Other mornings I would kind of look at it and look at myself and be like, could you ever have thought? But I just did something for myself every day, something to nurture my soul, something to nurture my mind, and to give myself a sense of, you did it. But it was hard. And I think that that's part of, something that I always tell clients is that it's not going to be easy. There's nothing about divorce that's easy. I wish it could have been. I wish clients come to me, they're like, I want to be divorced in a few days. Yeah, me too. But it doesn't work. It's not the way it goes. And it's okay. And for me, the process really gave me an opportunity to not only focus on myself in the present moment, but also focus on the future, what I wanted for myself. I had never asked myself that. What do you want? And it's so funny because now my husband now, one of the things he always asks me is, what do you want? Because I'm always willing for my son, for him, whatever you guys want, I'm okay. I'm always okay. But you know what? It's that moment where sometimes you're not okay. And people never stop to ask you. And he's always like, what do you want? I'm like, you're right. I do want the Haagen-Dazs chocolate ice cream. So if you wouldn't mind going to get it, I'll eat it, and it just, suddenly, it just has been, my story is, I think one of the things that I did also early on was start sharing my story, because I really feel that talking about it was very therapeutic for me. And also because of what you said earlier, we're not alone. And so many people feel alone. That is such an awful feeling. And we're not. And if more people share their story, you'll realize, when I started sharing my story, I can't tell you, Wendy, how many people came out of the woodwork and were like, oh my God, listen to this. And I thought, you do? No.
I know. And it's amazing how it's almost like, you not only become inspiration, but you hold and give them the space to be vulnerable and say, like, you're not alone, like you've got this. And it's amazing how, and that's also why I'm super transparent about my own story. To a degree, I have children, there's things they don't need to know, but at the same time, in sharing our stories, in being willing to share, even in a group setting, right, is so powerful, because it helps other people to open up. It helps other people to see that they're not alone. It helps other people to see that, they're, with the divorce rate over 50%, and maybe this, the smallest number actually talking about it, it gives people hope. It inspires people. It gives people a sense of relief. And, you've shared so much of that with the audience today in sharing your own story. And, I know you and I could talk for like a whole other episode. But I also want to, you've created this new business, you've created this new life for yourself. And, as a way for you to sort of gift it forward, I would love for you to share that, you would like to offer your services from your new company to our listeners. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing what that is, and also obviously just give a little snippet about Divorceify and, how it is that what you're giving for free can support somebody and how.
Sure. So like we've said, no two divorces are the same. Every divorce is different, and every divorce needs to be customized to that person and that family's pain points and needs. And so what I'm offering today is a free 30-minute, what I like to call a concierge session with me. That is to help strategize with you, to help you sort of just navigate that cloudiness and connect you to the right team of professionals within the Divorceify network. Having the right team is everything. And having them from the start so that you're not making costly mistakes, you understand what you're getting into, and we can just start visualizing your chapter 2 and how to get there. So that's what I'd like to offer to everybody. And they can reach me at Sonia, Sonia, at Divorceify, Divorceify.com.
Great. And any other information you want to share with everybody? I mean, obviously your website, Instagram, social media, all of that will be found in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys can read more information about how Divorceify can support you wherever it is that you are. And Sonia, thank you so much for being my guest today. I absolutely love and adore you, as you know, and I look forward to many more conversations that we're going to have together. Thank you again for being here today.
I appreciate you so much. I love and adore you too. And thank you so much for having me. And to everybody out there, there's hope. It will get better. It'll take time, but it will get better.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today. Sending you lots of love, light, and joy. Mwah. I will see you guys next week.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this episode with someone you know or spread the word on social media. This is how I reach more divorcees around the world and provide them with the support they need to create their next best life. And I would also love to continue the conversation with you. So please friend me on Facebook, join my private Facebook group, The Divorce Rehab, and follow me on Instagram at Divorce Rehab with Wendy. I'll see you next time.